Today we're going to be talking to Sun Pharmaceuticals. In fact, Uday Baldota, the CFO of Sun Pharma, now joins in on the phone line to discuss the Q3 numbers with us. Hi, Mr. Baldota. Thanks very much for joining in. First, wanted to start by talking about the guidance of the company. The company has maintained its FY15 guidance of around a 13 to 15% top-line growth, which basically implies a 20 to 30% year-on-year growth in Q4. How do you expect to achieve that, and is there then a chance of missing the FY15 guidance?
Based on where we are today, Ekta, I think that is what has been the basis of our saying that we hope to meet our guidance. And this will be, I think, across the businesses. If you see India business is growing okay. I think we face some reductions in US and rest of the world business. And to the extent that we are expecting the supply situation to improve, that is the basis on which we've said this. So I think let's see.
Okay. Your Q3 revenue was impacted by the supply shortages at the Halol plant due to the remediation measures that you're undertaking. Do we expect these shortages to be cleared by Q4? And if not by Q4, then by when?
What we've said, Ekta, is that we expect the supply situation to improve. I think that's where we are. So I think there will be a gradual improvement that we will continue to see.
Okay. For the US business in particular, Mr. Baldota, how much of a sequential growth do you see from the levels that we saw in Q3?
Difficult to give specific numbers. I think all of this, Ekta, is built into the statement that we made, saying that we are not changing our guidance at the moment.
Okay. Good afternoon, Mr. Baldota, and thanks so much for joining in. Any color on how Taro will perform from here on?
Again, specifically talking of Taro is difficult. You are aware our constraints. It's a listed entity on its own, so I think we can't give specific numbers on account of Taro. But just repeating myself, probably all of this is also baked into the statement that we made that we are not changing our guidance at the moment.
Okay. So what's been the latest communication that Sun Pharma has had with the US FDA with regard to Halol? What's been the tone of communication, and when can we look forward to hearing back from the US FDA?
We are continuing to work on getting back everything into compliance at the factory, and there is an ongoing reporting that continues to happen. Beyond that, I don't think there is anything specific that we have worth reporting.
Okay. Sir, analysts are working with a timeline of around 1 to 3 months for a possible resolution of the 483s or the US FDA observations at Halol. Is that a fair assumption?
I would not put any timeline from the company side on this.
Okay. Have other authorities, say, such as the UK MHRA, the EU authorities, inspected the Halol plant? And if so, when? And if not, when are they likely?
Given the fact that our facilities typically supply to more than one country, I think inspections from other regulatory authorities also continue to happen at some point in time. I don't have specific details as to which authority has inspected the plant at what point in time, but my understanding is that that's a regular feature. Nothing changes there.
Okay, fair enough. Which of your other plants could come up for a US FDA inspection in the near term?
No, I don't think there is any specific schedule that we have.
Okay.
Okay. Could you give us, provide us with some guidance on India that saw a 21% growth in Q3?
I think continuing based on what I've said earlier, difficult to give business-wise guidance, whether it is Sun US, whether it is Taro, or whether it is India. I think it's difficult to give that kind of guidance. Overall, what we've indicated still holds good.
Okay. But do you expect India to outperform the industry, and if so, in which segments?
No, specifically for the quarter, I think it's very difficult for us to say. If you look at the longer term evolution of the last few years, I think by and large we've grown faster than the market, and that's the reason we've been able to grow our market share. I think for us to say specifically whether we will grow how much faster than the market is difficult for us to say.
Okay. What will the R&D spends look like in Q4? Will it be similar to what we saw in Q3?
What we've indicated is that I think the generic spend there is some movement up, but I think more importantly investments have commenced for the product that we bought from Merck, and to the extent that these investments will continue every quarter, every year going forward, and also increase. I think by and large we would see an increasing trend of the R&D investment going forward, and also an increase in percentage of sales that's spent on R&D. Specifically indicating whether Q4 will be higher or lower than Q3 is difficult, but I think from a trend perspective one would see an increase as we move forward.
Okay. Sir, staying with the guidance, staying with R&D rather, what is the guidance on margins in FY16? This is factoring in research and development spends as well as the integration with Ranbaxy, which works with lower margins.
We generally never give a margin guidance, and I think that's something that we would like to continue. I think people need to keep in mind the fact that our margins are very high on account of a few things, like the high margins that Taro has, like the high margins on at least a few products in the US that we have. So I think there are a few things that are working in our favor, and some of these are clearly temporary. They will not last very long. But giving a specific number is clearly out of the question.
Okay. Can you then help us with the current status of the Ranbaxy merger? When do we expect to hear from the Punjab and Haryana High Court, which will be then the final approval?
We are awaiting the decision. We don't have any specific date as of now. But I think based on that approval and then the other formalities that we need to complete, we are expecting to close the transaction in this current financial year, which is by end of March.
Okay. With regards to the Competition Commission of India approval, which is contingent on the sale of certain products, what is the status of the sale, and when can we hear back on the final CCI approval based on the completion of that sale?
I think good progress is being made. Again, it's difficult for me to give a very specific indication of a date as to when this will get concluded. But I think there is very good progress that we are making in that direction.
Okay. Similarly, when can we hear on the US FTC approval?
No, I think the US FTC works differently. US FTC has given us an approval.
So the US FTC approval was not contingent on the sale of one drug, and if so, what is the status of the sale of the drug?
Correct. So that also we've signed agreements to divest that product. The actual divestiture will happen in a few days post close. That's the way the regulation works in the US. I've completed everything with the buyer, and once the transaction closes, I think if I'm not mistaken, in 10 days from the close of the transaction, the actual divestment needs to happen to the buyer.
Okay. And the sale of the drug is to Torrent Pharma?
That's right.
Okay. And is it fair to assume that the final CCI, Competition Commission of India, and Punjab and Haryana High Court approval will be in before the 1st of April 2015?
That's what I think I am indicating, that we will be able to close the deal by end of 31st March 2015.
All right. Okay. All right, Mr. Baldota, we leave it on that note. Thanks very much for joining in and talking to us. So that's Sun Pharma. There's a little bit of a nick which has come into the stock as we spoke. In fact, it's at the low point of the day, down around 0.3%. Maybe there is some trepidation on the street with regards to the FY15 guidance being a little of a tall task just based on what they have to deliver in Q4. But overall, the guidance at least is being maintained at this point in time.